Hello, Julie Aarons. I think even beat John Emmett on this evening. Julie in Cleveland, John Emmett over in the UK. He's hoping everyone is fit and well. He's going to talk about fitness. And Ed Worley is joining us from California. John Schaefer from Annapolis. John's going to be on the show here pretty soon. We got to work out a mutually good time. John's got some exciting news and developments in the offshore, and overboard world. Gordon Smith saying good evening from Denmark. Luca Craig is watching down, presumably in Auckland. Mary Jude Szymanski from Philly, where her team is locked in a battle for the World Series of Baseball. Carolyn Archer. Hello, Carolyn. Ted Ryman in Cape Town. As we get this one, show number 563 off the dock. 2, 1. Yes, the drinking show with a sailing habit. I didn't know John was going to talk about alcohol in his report today, but just brief mention. And hello to everybody. Welcome to show number 563. As usual, we're live from San Francisco, the Beach Street Yacht Club. Good afternoon, good Friday afternoon, good evening to those of you in South America and Europe. Good Saturday morning to those of you down under in Auckland and the rest of New Zealand, and of course, Australia as well. No Julia again today, sorry to say. She's convalescing, doing better, and sends all of her love and thanks very much for the kind comments that you all have sent her. And if you want to send her a note, just go to her Facebook message. Go messaging, it says Julia Wedekind with a W, W-E-D. I always pronounce it like it's the German, because it is a German name, W-E-D-E-K-I-N-D, as I'm sure, well, I can put it up here, as you all know. There's Julia's spelling of her name over there at her chair, where it's empty again today. And we want to get to the pre-start. Same club that I used the other day, the Glenmore Sailing Club up in Calgary, in Alberta, in Canada. I like this club. That's their race committee barge. It's just anchored out in the middle of the reservoir, where they start and finish their races. As I said, Julia is doing much better. Hopes to be back soon, probably not next week, perhaps, hopefully, the week after. One can hope, and she's bound and determined to get back here and get up to the Commodore Suite here at the Beach Street Yacht Club sooner than later. It's that time of year, beautiful colors even out here in the backyard at the Beach Street Yacht Club. Indian summer in Connecticut. Yep, Indian summer all over in North America at least. And Julia, I'm sure, is watching. Gordon Smith and all of you sending nice comments. Howdy from sunny Newport Beach. That's Mary Longpree and Peter Taylor. Good afternoon. You are looking inside. Yeah, I am better, thanks. The head cold is clearing up after post-COVID little head cold. But I got to say again, thanks again for all your comments. But I mean, this COVID thing for me was, I've had worse colds. I've had worse hangovers. It was a 2-week cold, basically, and a mild one at that. But it's that time of year when we do switch, at least here in North America, and we do it a little later than those of you in Europe do. This Sunday, we will fall back from 3 a.m. to 2 a.m. It's croutonnic in my not so humble opinion. But we do go off daylight time, and then some program notes in a moment. But according to Psychology Today, asking why do we change our clocks in the first place, most people think that farmers in this country originally requested daylight saving time, or summertime as most of you call it, most of the rest of the world, so they would have more daylight for working outside. Yeah, but this is a myth, and of course it's not true. It's like the old Native American, the Indian story here. Well, I'll cut some of the end of my blanket off and sew it on to the other end, so I'll have more blanket at the end of the day. Yeah, come on. Get up earlier, go to bed later, whatever. But it's not true. It wasn't the farmers, according to Psychology Today. This is a myth. Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers, of course, first proposed the time shift in 1784 to conserve candles shortly after our revolution. Congress didn't implement this practice until 1918 to save energy, they thought, at the start of World War I. research shows that daylight savings time leads to sleep loss, even in the fall, even in the autumn, when we gain an hour of sleep, as we will Sunday night. That's because most Saturday night leading into Sunday morning. That's because most people simply wake up earlier, leading to a net loss of sleep. There's evidence that these sleep disruptions last 5 days or longer. Changing our clocks results in an entire work week where most of the country is more sleep deprived than usual. There is also, Psychology Today says, clear evidence that changing our clocks increases the incidence of emotional and behavioral disorders, stress-related immune disorders, and accidents involving injuries. Further, a separate study found that moving the clocks back in the fall and the autumn results in an 11% increase in depressive episodes. The health effects of changing our clocks are so clear that the American Academy of Sleep Medicine has been calling for getting rid of daylight savings time for the past 2 years. Indeed, there is a bill that has passed through our Senate, I think not to get rid of daylight time, but to keep us on daylight time year-round, which I don't want to get into that argument. All I argue is that we ought to do one or the other and not be changing willy-nilly back and forth twice a year. It's just, I think it's crazy. But plus, it doesn't save any energy. For now, according again to Psychology Today, anyway, we are stuck with a time change as the American Academy of Sleep Medicine suggests some steps you can take to make the time change feel a little easier. You in Europe have been through it. You down under have already been through it. So this isn't going to help you much, but those of you in North America, at least, some in South America, go to sleep at your usual bedtime on Saturday night before we turn the clocks back. Adjust your clocks at bedtime, not before. I don't know about that. I do it the next morning. Try to get up at your normal time on Sunday morning. If you have gone to bed at your normal time, that should give you an extra hour of sleep. I don't know. I wake up at the same time anyway. If possible, try to get your body moving. Get outside in the morning light, which resets your body by boosting cortisol levels, which give you energy, and halting melatonin production, which makes you sleepy. In fact, when you're jet lagged, if we'd fly to London, we'd always just try to go outside if you didn't have a cloudy day or rainy day in London and try to get some sun, afternoon sun, on the pineal gland in the back of your neck, which is where that melatonin goes on. Okay, the comments coming in now, but here's my point before we get to the comments. We, as promised, will keep this show at 2000 UTC. We've been telling you that it's a hell of a lot tougher for me, frankly, to do the show because that means we go live at 12 Pacific time now, starting next Tuesday, which is 1500 Eastern Standard Time. But we told you we'd keep it on 2000 UTC, so wherever in the world you are, you know you can tune in live at 2000 UTC. And John Emmett and I talked about that this morning, and he likes that because the show's an hour earlier in Europe in the wintertime. And the delta between here and down under is a little different, but we can't keep track of it all. You all have to figure it out. We will stick to 2000 UTC. Emmett says, good to hear. David Richard Morse, good advice. Amazing what the sun can do to get you energized. Stingray, don't fly east-west this weekend. The flight will last an hour longer. I don't think so, Stingray. Julie Aaron, seasonal disorder, SAD, a type of depression affected by less sunlight. Jonathan Frank, who's, of course, an airline pilot and deals with jet lag all the time, flying 777s for United Airlines. The trauma of having reset my various sailing watches is maddening. Jonathan Frank saying, amen. Gordon Smith, 1918, I think the start, well, it was 1918, 1914. It was World War I-ish. Jeff Ogles in Annapolis. Hello, Jeff, checking in. Stingray making a joke, and on and on and on. Luca Craig, this is one of my two favorite shows each week. The other is Sailing Illustrated on Tuesday. Thank you for that, Luca. But look, I don't like daylight time. I don't care if we stay on daylight time. I think each state can decide that. Each country can decide that. You know, Western Australia does something different than you do in New South Wales and so on and so forth. Arizona is one state that does something different here. Half of Indiana does something different. I don't care, but the change is what is, to me, maddening, so much so that I would ask you, just we talk about this every time, but I'll ask you again, do you think switching time is correct or crutonic? If we could just peg the time to one time or another, is that correct? Or do you like this idea? I know Clark Chapin likes to go an hour later and give us more late night time for sailing in the evenings in Michigan. We already have, in effect, in Michigan, because we're so far west in the time zone, we should be on Chicago time. But for historical reasons, Michigan wanted to be on the railroad times of New York. Back in the railroad days, the New York Central Railroad left New York at a certain time, went through Julie Aaron's town through Cleveland and across the South Shore Lake Erie and up into Michigan, then over to Chicago. And the Michiganders wanted to be on railroad time according to New York. And some people later said, well, the markets too, the stock market. Is daylight time, or summertime, as most of you call it in the rest of the world, going on summertime, is that correct or crutonic? And for extra credit, would you, if you do stick to one time, if we change the time, would you just stick on standard time or on daylight time, or just let everybody decide locally? What saith you? Clark Chapin, as my friend Pete Nico once said, just because this horse is dead doesn't mean that we have to stop. Well, Clark likes daylight time. I told you that a minute ago. And I think that there's a lot of good jokes here. Crutonic, John Emmett says, more and more countries have stopped switching. Ted Ryman, crutonic. Jeff Ogle, it's lame. Peter Taylor, time changes, crutonic. Crutonic, Edwards, mostly everybody is agreeing. Recalibrate the sextant is massive. Yet the sextant saying, right, how about recalibrating the sundial in your backyard? In South Africa, we don't change our clocks, Ted Ryman is saying. Yes, Sangmeister, this is a sailing show, and this is an issue, John, that affects all of us, doesn't it? So I think one way or another. But regardless, we will stay here at 2000 UTC, which means starting next Tuesday for 4 months. We're going live at noon Pacific, 1500, 3 p.m. Eastern. What day is today? Here's your only clue. Probably a lot of you checked. I think I even put it in the show notes at the top of the show. And this is the 5th of November. We're doing today in honor of Down Under, where it is the 5th, because frankly, there wasn't much interesting on the 4th, either for what day is today or for this day in history. So the 5th of November, tomorrow for us, today for those of you down under, is World Tsunami Day, which is another one of these UN General Assembly days, and they designated the 5th of November back in 2015 as World Tsunami Awareness Day, calling on countries, international bodies, and civil society to raise tsunami awareness and share innovative approaches to risk reduction. World Tsunami Awareness Day was the brainchild of, no surprise, Japan, which, due to its repeated bitter experience over the years, built up major expertise in areas such as tsunami early warning, public action, and building back better after a disaster to reduce future impacts. UN disaster risk reduction, God knows that's just exactly what the UN needs. UNDRR facilitates the observance of World Tsunami Awareness Day in collaboration with the rest of the United Nations. Oh, no, they're not calling it a system, the United Nations system. Here's a little video on Tsunami Awareness Day. I suspect, with the exception of those of you in the Great Lakes and a few other inland lake type people, wherever in the world, most of us are living in a tsunami zone. We've got the signs outside the Beach Street Yacht Club here about, what happens if there's a tsunami, as if you need to know. It's like that meme I ran a few weeks ago where there's now a sign on the gas, at the gas stations, the nozzle, the fuel nozzle, don't put this in your mouth or in your anus. I mean, excuse me. But I guess these days there are some people that are really stupid. But, obviously going to head for higher ground. And there's some fascinating. I found another video, which I'll play for you now, some pretty interesting developments in tsunami preparedness here in this video. Have a look. Obviously, knowing natural warning signs could save your life. A strong or long ground shaking, a loud roar from the ocean, an unusual drop in sea level. That's the big thing, I think. But sometimes tsunami triggering events occur too far away to be felt, and that's why we have these big notification systems now, which seem mostly to be false. But undersea seismic sensors, buoys, a tsunameter. Tsunameter. That's a new word for me, obviously. And shore-based tidal gauges detect dangerous seismic events and sea level changes, allowing timely alerts to be delivered to all vulnerable communities. These early warning systems need to be end-to-end and people-centered, yes, of course. Educating communities to prepare and respond effectively, yes. It means reliable detection, initiating early warning messages that reach all at-risk communities. This is kind of surplusage, but tsunamis have no season. They can happen anytime and anywhere and can strike in minutes. I don't know what Muse give people the time they need. World Tsunami Awareness Day. Okay, that's sort of a lame video, I suppose, but I'm sure everybody on here know this. Here on the West Coast, hashtag get the higher ground is, that's why Julia's got this. We keep talking and she's not here. I shouldn't talk about it, but she is watching, and bless her heart, she and her late husband have this dory, this little Boston whaler type boat up in the ceiling of the garage down on the ground level of the Beach Street Yacht Club. And it's on a block and tackle, but not that any of us is going to get that in a tsunami or going to get that thing off the ceiling of the garage, let alone get climbed into it. And then what are you going to do? There used to be a little engine with it. You're going to roll that away, or the engine's gone, the gasoline. You don't want to store gasoline in your garage. No, if there's going to be a tsunami, we're going to get in the car and get up to the top of Pacific Heights at least, if not further inland. Okay, enough of all that. What are the comments here? Dang, can't keep my eyes on the screen. Keep looking outside through the windows instead. Just looking for well, the next big quake may be up in the Pacific Northwest thing, right? You're in Seattle. There's Team Out of Mind. Who is that? On YouTube. Hello, Team Out of Mind. Cheers, Tom. Tell us who you are. I don't recognize the name. Gordon Smith, the removal of mangrove groves from coastline have increased the damage and loss from, I didn't know that, from tsunamis. Jonathan Frank, yes, is an ounce of rum. Hi from Miami. Okay, Blake Middleton is checking in from definitely not tsunami land up at the land of 10,000 lakes in Minnesota. And again, we get so many false alarms these days. Every time there's a quake anywhere in the Pacific Basin, Pacific Rim, it seems like we get a notice here in San Francisco there may be a tsunami, but I guess better that than no notice at all. Welcome to all of you. Show number 563 for this Friday, the 4th of November. Sorry again, we're at the Beach Street Yacht Club. Sorry that Julia is not with us again, but probably not next week. Hopefully we'll have Julia back here the week after next. As I said at the top of the show, she is bound and determined to get out of the convalescent center where she is and get back to her place upstairs. Let's take us to the starting line now and get into John Emmett's report. John's very interesting report. You all asked for some fitness advice from John, and he's delivered in today's report. Have a look.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. You join me here on my sofa at Emmett Towers. This is in fact the third time of recording because I've had some sound issues, so hopefully third time lucky. The difficulty now for me to remember is what I've said and what I haven't said, but I'll do my best. I'm recording this on a long lens, hence the fact that I couldn't actually see the voice meter, because if I look around, it's a bit of a mess as I'm getting packing for the winter training. So this is really good timing, because the question I had from the last show was about fitness, and this is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go and do a really focused fitness block between this year's Europeans, which I actually go to next week at Yacht, one of my favourite venues, and next year's Europeans, because that isn't actually that far away, and we'll be spending most of our time in Villamora working on fitness. So yes, in the background I have quite a lot of packing to do, and on one of my previous recordings actually my alarm went off telling me to go. So I'm recording indoors for two reasons. One, as always, I'm pretty much running around in a rush trying to pack, because I'm going away for such a long period of time that I won't be back in Weymouth till next year. It's very important I don't forget anything. And also, I think winter has come and the weather outside is absolutely appalling. But hopefully that won't be the case when I'm in sunny France. So where to start with fitness? Crikey, it's a big topic. And I always feel it's very much like a fire triangle. You've got three elements. If you remove oxygen, or if you remove fuel, or if you remove the heat, the fire goes out. So for fitness, you've really got your training, where you do your overload. You've got your rest, which is probably most specifically your sleep, and your nutrition. And crikey, each one of those subjects could be worth writing a book, and it's something that I deal with a lot. And I will, at the end of the video, give you a couple of top tips, but I need to say that you can't give a detailed program just down the lens of a camera. We're all different. I think one of the frustrations for me is people, sailors, perhaps that's not quite fair, perhaps more parents will blame the boat because they say it's too heavy or too overpowered or whatever. So I need to put a caveat there. That the fitness requirement obviously changes a lot as you go, for example, from optimist to Olympic classes. I mean, it's a sport. Technique aside, the harder you work, the faster you'll go. It really is that simple. But the caveat, you should be the right weight for the boat, or will shortly be the right weight for the boat. And for me, that's thinking about being fully powered up in 12 to 15 knots and not needing to depower. And that way, if it's really light, or if it's really windy, you're not too underpowered or overpowered. And you see how classes develop and the optimum weight range changes. If you look at the IQ foils, wow, I mean, you'll see a lot of them have been gaining weight for that class. And yeah, there's lots of heavyweight boats now, because both the kites and the IQ foils really seem to be rewarding the heavier athlete, because you can take more power, but because you're on the foil, there's a lot less drag as opposed to just putting that power in the sail. But yeah, on to fitness. What can I say? Well, first of all three elements are very important, and there's no way you can get away from that. I mean, in terms of diet, and I will talk about that perhaps on another show, everybody's looking for the magic pill. Just eat this and everything's going to be wonderful, or just don't eat this and everything will be better. And it's really not that simple. Perhaps I would look at a 90-10 rule. So 90% of the time you eat very healthily, lots of veg, lots of fruit, avoid the very refined carbohydrates or whatever. But you can't really remove anything from your diet completely, because there may well be long-term health consequences 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, you don't know. And also you can say whatever you want with statistics. We actually have what's called a J curve, which is like this. For a lot of things, which actually people who have a very small amount of something are generally better than people who completely abstain. And that's one of the things with alcohol. I've got to admit, I love a drink, but one of the big misconceptions is it's better to have a tiny bit rather than none. What you've got to remember in the statistics of all the people who don't have any alcohol, you're also grouping in a large number of people who are sadly very unwell and cannot take alcohol due to terminal illness, or they're very injured or whatever, and they're abstaining for alcohol for that reason. So it does skew the results slightly. But fitness is about being fit for tasks. So my two top tips are really quite simple. The aerobic fitness, you need to do something that gets you out of breath and you enjoy. Insert your own joke there, Fozy. because that way you'll sustain it. It's really like choosing a sports beverage. If you choose one which you enjoy, you're more likely to drink enough. So choose something that gets you out of breath. That's going to help you in at least 3 ways. It makes you more focused on the race course. It will give you a better recovery time when you're doing multiple day regattas, which is the majority of regattas these days. And 3, you can just perform at a higher heart rate. And that's something I work at a lot, keep my heart rate as high as possible. And I'm sure that the next top tip you will guess, it's to really look after your core. Nobody thinks about injury until they're injured. That's almost a universal truth, sadly. But it doesn't only make you fast, it will protect you from injury. So again, to try and do this in a fun way, I think to link it with your stretch routines works quite well. Personally, I like a group environment, so you can have yoga, power yoga, Pilates, however you like to do it. But yeah, aerobic and core, that's the key 2 things, and definitely what I would recommend for very young or very old athletes, really, when you have to pick what's most important. So diet and rest, that's something for another topic. But I would really recommend people check out the documentary, The Game Changers from 2018. I think you'll find it very insightful. So hopefully I will be out and about next week in the air and see you there.
Thanks, John Emmett. Get our heart rates up, get our core nice and fit and strong, and maybe have a drink with our friends. One drink? Maybe a couple. I couldn't help. John is headed. He sent me this picture. He's headed to Hyères, as he mentioned in the video, and he's coaching. The ILCA 6 and 7 Europeans are taking place there starting next Tuesday. I think he's flying Monday. Will give us a report from there on Tuesday. But he has to take his bike wherever he goes for just local transportation. So he is off to Hyères, and the gear he has to take includes his bicycle. Oh, man. I know during the Cup, we finally got smart during the Cup, and we started shipping bicycles for all of us in one of the containers from wherever we were running these pre-regattas, so we could get around when we were there. That was smart. But John, I'm sure, has got a specialty bike. That's report, of course, courtesy of John Emmett. Sailing, get to the front of the fleet. And the tag here on the bottom of this slide, as usual, today's show, when I don't have a guest, I usually put yacht racing news, views, and notables. But today I put, this is a Sailing Illustrated, a drinking show with a sailing habit, as you may have seen at the top of the show, not knowing John was going to talk about alcohol. Let's get to the Route de Rhum. We told you a bit about this, in fact, quite a bit about this on Tuesday. One man or a woman, one boat, the ocean. The concept is simple and easy to understand. Thanks again to John Sangmeister and Mark Husted and a few others that have encouraged us to follow this, because I'm finding this increasingly more and more fascinating. And above all, this is a French race loved by a nation that knows and loves solo races. It's all solo racing, remember. On the Route de Rhum, destination Guadeloupe, from France down to Guadeloupe in the Caribbean, all racers must cover the 3,500 nautical miles, or 6,500 plus kilometers. They all start at the same time this Sunday on a single starting line off Saint-Malo in France, and the first in each class to cross the finish line in Guadeloupe wins. And there's a record number of boats. It's a terrific turnout for this event. Here's the video I played Tuesday. I think I'll play it again. It's a brief one. The 12th edition. From Saint-Malo, of course, to Guadeloupe. 6 classes, a record 138 skippers. And the classes, the Ocean 50, the Amoca, the Class 40, the Rum Monos, the Rum Multis, and then, of course, the Ultimes. And they got a big fleet of Ultimes, 8. Okay, you can comment on the music. Yeah, Mike Birch, who has sailed, and did he win, Fritz Muller, did he win the original race? Was he Canadian? And he died Tuesday night, sadly. But what a guy! And I think this is again going to be a fascinating race, as I'm sure many of you do. Fritz Mueller's agreeing it's going to be awesome. Start Sunday, of course. News, views, and potables. Bill Wingrove, not notables, potables. Okay, I'll do that. I'm going to put that on the next show. Lily, John Emmett's wife, Lily, she is doing the Chinese commentary for Route de Rome. That's nice to know. What else? I walk the dog every day, but he has very short legs, so it's not much of a work. Gordon Smith. Okay, so that was that video. So the music is a little, well, it's lively, shall we say. And we talked on Tuesday about Pip Hare and her new boat. It's a new boat called, same sponsor, Medallia. And I now have two videos that she did, one from 3 days ago and one from yesterday, the day before. And I thought they're brief and they're both in English and they're quite interesting. Pip Hare, the famously good British sailor. Have a look.
I'm here on board Medallia in the Route de Rome race village, and we're 4 days before the start of the race. And I'm just going to talk you through one of my food bags. So it's really important on the race that I eat enough calories to cover the calorie deficit from me working this boat on my own. And the easiest way for us to manage that is to put the food into 24-hour bags. So in this bag is everything that I must eat in 24 hours. So let's have a look at what's inside. So first of all, I've got my main meals, which are all freeze-dried. So they are full meals that I just add hot water to. This one I make up in a flask. And then these ones can be made up in the bag. Now I don't eat meat, so they're all vegetarian. I've got a breakfast here, granola and raspberries, posh baked beans for one main meal, Thai green curry with cashews for another, and then my absolute all-time favourite, fish and potato with parsley. And I will eat these spread out evenly during the day, and it gets harder actually to eat hot meals the further south you go, but certainly at the beginning of the race when we've got really short days, it's dark and cold for a long time, then these kind of give me quite a lot of comfort and keep me warm as well. Now on top of that, I need to just kind of supplement my calories, but also my vitamins and nutrients with snacks. And so I take a multivitamin pill. I take iron, fortified iron water as well. And then a bag of dried fruit per day. And then my snack bars. So I have to be quite careful about my sugar intake because sugar can really spike my energy levels. If I eat a sugary snack, then my energy levels go up really high, but then I have a massive crash afterwards. I can get very cold. I actually get quite bad indigestion as well. So my favourite, both on the land and on the sea, are actually these naked bars. Just squished up fruit. They're not mega sweet, the varieties that we choose, which I like, and I just stick those in my pocket at the beginning of a 24-hour period and snack on them when I need.
Yeah, okay, it's 2 weeks on that diet, and Bill Wingrove saying that he wouldn't last on that diet. But yeah, I'm enough of a carnivore that I'd like some real meat, I think. But I agree with her about the sugar. You know, avoiding the sugar. I don't eat sugar, or at least precious little. I may have one M&M almond after dinner as a dessert sometimes. But it's very interesting. The functionality of the interior of the boat, Stingray is saying, and I thought her videos, and she's done any number of videos. In fact, I'm going to play one more because I do think. Of course, being in English helps too, but several of the others are as well. But let's have a look at this next video from Pip Hare.
3 days to the start of the Route du Rhum, and already the wind is whistling through the village. It's cold, and we're getting an idea of what the weather conditions are going to be like for the start. And I'm just kind of thinking about what my world is going to look like for the next 2 weeks. So I'm going to spend a huge amount of time out in the cockpit here. This roof here, this part of the cockpit, will close over. So at the start, I'll definitely have this pulled over, and then my conservatory, I call it, the awning kind of that comes down here, will be up. The boat's going to be heeling over loads, so I'll be using these handholds a lot up here and up here. Kind of all the time I have to hang on because the boat's bouncing over the waves and it's heeled at a big angle. All the main work is done on the pedestal here, so I'll be kind of working on there a lot, and the winch is here driving all of this on board. And then kind of while the boat's sailing along, I'll be sitting on one side or the other, looking out of my windows here and paying attention to all of my screens, which are showing me what the environment around the boat's doing, what the loads are in different places on the boat, where the other competitors are, how fast I'm going, and all of the kind of alarms and sensors that keep me in contact with everything that's happening around the boat. I'm just looking at all of those screens. So let's go down below, have a look at it down here. And already it's feeling a little bit cozier down here, but actually that's not how it's going to be while I'm racing, because the hull of this boat is so thin. It's very strong, but it's very, very thin plate, so there's no thermal insulation. It allows the temperature of the sea to come into the boat, so it will be quite cold and quite damp. Here is my navigation station. So we just fitted a new PC just before we came here, and we've just been doing the final work setting that up, and you can see here all of my instrument sensors are all green. One of the things we do pre-race is leave the instruments on all the time, so that if there is anything that's not quite right, we'll pick it up before the race. The water ballast is going to be in use to start off with, because it's going to be windy. So this tank here and the one on the other side, I'll be transferring the water through this pipe between tanks. Now, one thing that's new for this race, if I just take my life jacket out of the way, and I'm trying for the first time ever, is I have a bunk. So this is a bunk that I can move from side to side, and for the first time I've actually got a bed, and we'll see how that goes. So I can adjust the angle of it so that I don't fall out of it, and then I can move it from side to side. And if I swing my chart table round, I should be able to keep an eye on the screens and the alarms and everything from here. So I'm quite excited to see how that goes. And then down here, we've got the jet boil. Now, in preparation for the race, I've got a new gas canister in under here. So I reckon I burn through one of these every 10 days. So I've got 2 for the race. Up here already I've got my first 24 hours of food waiting for me here, and my food flask. These little shelves are empty at the moment, but in here I'm going to put my tea, I'm going to put my hand wash gel, and some more kind of electrolytes and just things that I need to hand. Up here, I've got my spoon. Oh, and my toothbrush. And of course, sunscreen, because we are going where it's hot. So we're almost set. Oh, finally, last but not least, Storage for woolly hats.
Pip, those are great videos. I really enjoyed them, and there are more. If you go on to the Route de Rhum, just Google Route de Rhum on you, or go to YouTube and then put in Route de Rhum, and there's lots of videos, lots of interesting stuff. These were two of the most interesting that I saw, and you all liked too. Fritz Mueller saying, "Good on her, good on you, Pip. Nice video. Good luck." Ted Ryman is saying, "Yep." And again, the French guys in French for the most part. There's a few in English. And quite as one of you said, who mentioned this, quite a more interesting, was it Chris who said quite a bit more interesting international crowd. There's a Japanese guy, there's an Australian. Didn't somebody mention that? Somebody said Mark Husted, Rupert Henry from Oz having a crack at the race. CYCA did a good interview with him. Yeah, CYCA is doing good videos on their club YouTube page. I didn't see that one, Mark, but there's some olive oil in the freeze dried to help when it comes out the other end. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff all around. And Gordon Smith, I think, has summed it up nicely. I remain impressed at absolutely anyone who does this. Yeah, Stingray, great video, and totally agree. So thanks, Pip Hare, for that. Good luck. We'll be following you. The race starts Sunday, of course. She mentioned at the top of that video that it's a bit, wild and woolly already, windy and cold. And the weather forecast, the first couple nights out, is challenging. The weather outlook for the first few days of the 12th Route de Rhum, destination Guadeloupe, still looks to be difficult, very much in keeping with the history of the solo transatlantic race. 48 hours of stormy conditions with at least two fronts in succession need to be dealt with, each with winds over 40 knots and big unruly seas. Now, here's an interesting point I thought we should cover. 45 solo skippers in the multi-hulls, real-time weather routing is allowed. It removes a whole layer of stress and makes racing at 40 knots much safer for the Ultimes, the Ocean 50s, and the Rum Multis. The solo racers need only spend minimal time deciphering the weather files and preparing their strategy and then following it. And that's for the IMOCAs, the Pip Hares. They got to do their own weather routing, as you saw all over instrumentation, of course. They don't have anybody on shore. And I learned this morning that Stan Honey's involved with probably well, we'll tell you about it in a minute, probably the number one team in the L teams, well, at least Tip and Shaft thinks they're. This beautiful photo, courtesy of Tip and Shaft, Vincent, how do you say this in French? Huet? That picture from last night in France, obviously, in Saint-Malo, and it's what a scene it is there. We played you some of the videos the other day on Tuesday, and here is the scene live from a webcam there, and it's still a party. What time is it there, CET? 21:43, so it's not quite 2200, not quite 10 o'clock at night, obviously on Friday night, and just a magnificent scene and atmosphere, ambiance there. This from Tip and Shaft, tricks of the light this week during the night in Saint-Malo after arriving on Tuesday, October 25th, to dock into the Vauban Basin. The Ultimes were the first to leave this Friday. They have to go out into the outer basin with the dock out of the locks, which was very popular with the public. They parade out. The Rum Mono and the Rum Multi categories will follow in the night tonight, Friday night through Saturday. And then in the early afternoon, the 8 Ocean 50s and 38 IMOCAs. The last to leave the basins will be the 55 Class 40s. Early Sunday, the departure remains fixed at 1:02 p.m. with the presence, a first, of the President of the Republic, Emmanuel Macron. So that's pretty interesting that a yacht race we had President Kennedy at the America's Cup in '62, and one or two other presidents passing through Newport, Rhode Island. But President Obama, I think when he was I don't know if he was still president or he was past president, but he went through the basin in Auckland at one point. And of course, we've had a few others, and of course, prime ministers of various countries, including especially New Zealand and Australia when they won in '83. But to have the sitting president of a major country like France, go down to the race, great stuff. Stingray, Tip and Shaft also has some photos by this race by a guy named Justin Case. Yeah, there's Tip and Shaft, which comes out on Fridays. It's free. I commend it to you, as always. Good stuff. Good stuff. Mark Husted, Rupert Henry will do the race, then jump on a plane to go back to Sydney to race on a Mistral, doing a double-handed in the Sydney to Hobart. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, here's a little more news about this race via Tip and Shaft. This is the favorite in the Yule teams. Edmond de Rothschild, of course, Francois Gabard, or Charles Caudrelier's boat. For our experts, according to Tip and Shaft, the favorite is Charles. Winner, single-handed, double-handed, or crewed of all races against his rivals over the last 3 years. He races the well-proven, fully optimized Verdier-designed Maxi Edmond de Rothschild, which was first launched in 2017. That boat goes back 5 years. A trimaran that is reliable and still just as efficient, especially as it has been further optimized this year. Quote, with the new foils fitted in August, the boat has taken a new step forward in terms of pure performance. I don't have the impression that it has any weak points in speed. On the contrary, it only has strengths, explained Franck Camas last Tuesday in a podcast. Camas, who's arguably the best offshore sailor in the world, but among the best anyway, who will be the router alongside Stan Honey and Erwin Israel. Now that's a team, for sure. They go on to say, quote, if you had asked me the question some time ago, I would have told you that Gitana's strong point was the boat, but that Francois Gabart's had the advantage of experience. Today, when I see how Charles has worked, I have the feeling that he is a little notch above, says Pascal Bidiggery. The only box that Charles does not tick is that he is a rookie on the Route de Rhum, tempers Vincent Laurent Prévost, the famous VPLP designer. I think those who have already raced it see things a little differently in terms of the pace to be imposed, the sequences of systems, but also the management of the finish. 4 years ago, we saw Francis Joyon pass Francois Gabard because I think he had a better knowledge of the passage around Guadeloupe. And remember, that's 4 years ago, too. One of the guys was asleep and went aground. Who was that? Was that our friend from the UK? In any event, this thing is going to be a great race. I'm looking forward to it. Starts Sunday, and you can watch it live. Sunday, is it at 1 o'clock? But in the hour leading up to that, probably you want to go on at 11 o'clock local time. So that's minus 9 hours to us here in San Francisco, minus 6 to those of you on the East Coast. And it's being carried live both on the Route de Rhum YouTube channel and on their Facebook page. I commend it to you. That is Sunday. The Route de Rhum, the 12th edition, starts at, I think it's 1 o'clock, isn't it? Or is it noon? I can't remember. Go online and see. This is the show, the drinking show of the sailing habit. Not that the Route de Rhum, I mean, those guys aren't going to do any drinking on the way to Guadeloupe, are they? Okay, I have a Bravo Zulu. I'm really impressed with this video. This came from the Canadian Sail GP team, who have been going around Canada doing clinics for young sailors, for top young sailors, and they gathered the I guess the creme de la creme in I think in Nova Scotia here a week or so ago, and produced this video. Gave 12 top sailors a real great, amazing foiling experience. Have a look.
It was an awesome experience.
Yeah, so we're here in Halifax, Nova Scotia for the weekend foil Inspire Camp.
So we have Canadians from all over the country flew in and done 5 days. It's been awesome. Kids love it. They just don't want to get off the water.
It was so much fun. I've never sailed these boats with that many people. It was good to have a lot of time on the water and learn from people in Canada and the Sail GP team, and it was just tons of fun.
We've been to all 4 provinces. We've nailed down 530 plus demo trials on the Wasp, and we just came here for 5 days of training with the top 25 kids in Canada.
I got to sail with some of the best people in the world. This guy over here.
Such a good vibe, man. Everyone's so pumped, and even all us sailors are pumped as well from the F50 team, and it's a good vibe and so awesome to see, and cool to see how pumped up kids are getting on foiling.
Yeah, it's just an amazing experience. I definitely recommend it to everybody.
It was fantastic. I learned so much from just talking with the SailGP athletes and also sailing alongside them, seeing what they do differently, and the experience they bring from the F50s to the WASP was, yeah, invaluable. So it was amazing.
Favorite moment would be probably today doing the slalom races because it was so fast and fun.
Kind of overwhelming and surreal because I watched these people on TV and now they're here.
We had this idea basically during the summer to try to really showcase foiling, not just run a foiling camp, but really try to give people an opportunity to learn about foiling, try foiling, and also get better at foiling.
Not only did we have the 15 WASPs, we had the NACRAs, we had F-18s, and we had the NSP wing foil boards out for the first time. Everybody had a chance to do all types of foiling, just having fun, going fast.
We were very fortunate to bring in some really good coaches apart as well from being really inspired by the Canadian SailGP team.
When I was growing up, I would have loved to have something like this. So it's massive for the youth of our country to have this opportunity.
It's been super impressive to see the amount of kids and the amount of fizz that's around the boat park here, and the excitement for foiling and the skill level as well. You know, we had such a range of kids from 14 to 21 that are doing it for the first time, and the progression of learning is seriously impressive. So it's been a blast, and it's been awesome just to share our knowledge as well with them and give them a few tips and tricks and sort of what we know, and then also go and get beaten up by them on the water. So a great few days here in Halifax.
The biggest takeaway is the inspiration that the young sailors are getting into what the future of the sport has to offer for them. And really, I think this is the opportunity, and I see Canada becoming a leader in the sport, and I think this is our opportunity.
I wish this kind of stuff was around when I was a kid, but yeah, the growth and development is it's ridiculous, and the foiling is the future.
Well, I don't know if you agree that foiling is the future, but it is I'm sure for a lot of young people. A couple interesting comments in that. The one comment that, we see these people on TV and now they're right here with us. And the other was, I wish I had this sort of thing when I was growing up. That was one of the SailGP guys, in fact, saying that. So I don't know if you agree with this or not, but as Peter Houston, not Peter Houston, as who said it? Blake Middleton said, Pedro foiling sailor must be in love when he sees his videos. Yeah, I talked to Pedro this morning. He was going to be out and about and watch it in replay. But Peter, when you're now watching it, if you're watching in replay, we dedicate that segment to you. I'm sure he's loving that very much. Yep, foiling is the future. Emmett keeps telling us, and John, I'm sure, especially for young sailors. Ted Ryman, I'd love to blast around one of those WASPs. I doubt I'd stay on for very long, though. Mark Husted, I love seeing this. Phil's having fun at his work. Yeah, I agree. And I think it's a really nice thing that the SailGP team is doing. So, at least up in Canada, I wonder if the other teams are doing that. Ed Worley agreeing it's a nice video. And lots of other great comments. We're almost up to 200 comments already today. We're not even an hour into today's show. Thank you, SailGP Canada, for that video. And the Dubai Sail Grand Prix, presented by P&O Marinas, is in just a week's time. It's the 12th through the 13th of November. So next Saturday and Sunday, the 7th event of Season 3. First time that SailGP is in the Middle East. Of course, live television coverage, at least on YouTube and I guess Facebook as well. Welcome again to our show number 563. If you're just joining us, we're about an hour in. We don't have Julia with us again today. She is in the rehab center with a broken bone in her foot. Hopes to be back here. Probably not next week, but hopefully the week after. We'll get her back in here because it's a lot more fun to do the show when she's sitting over there at her chair. We don't have her headset on the back of her chair. Fosy Focus is the next segment. Friends of Sailing Illustrated. I love bass. I love jazz. This is just a quick clip. Speaking of Peter Stevenson, Pedro foiling sailor, he ran into didn't run into, but he caught up with one of the Sydney Hobart favorites out on Sydney Harbor and sent along this video.
Hey guys, I reckon you're going to win this year's Sydney to Hobart. What do you reckon? Absolutely. By how many hours? Oh, we're going to be a record, are we? Good stuff. Have a good one, guys. I'll get out of your way. Another Pedro's personal perspective.
Pedro's personal perspective. Thanks, Peter Stevenson from Australia. He sends along a video. And again, we welcome any videos from any of you. Ed Worley's making contributions with his kind of trivia questions about America's Cup. We've got one for you on Tuesday. He's got a great commemoration for the late, great Peter DeSavre, who passed away earlier this week. And we're going to talk about that on next Tuesday's show. Maybe do, and I'm thinking about having a, for PDS, this isn't exactly the right slide for that, but I'll switch. Speaking of yacht racing news, views, and notables, I'm thinking about doing a Zoom tribute. If a number of you, Graham Sweeney and Gordon Smith, and any number of you who've been around for a while, remember what PDS did in 1983 for the Cup. Remember, he led the British America's Cup Challenge that got to the finals of the Challenger Selection Series, the first ever Louis Vuitton Cup, and lost to Australia 2, which, as you all know, went on to win the Cup. A lot of people think that British team had a lot to do ultimately with Australia 2's success, because Aus 2 was pretty slow downwind until they got into the finals of the LBC, and Tom Schnackenberg and others figured out their spinnakers on Australia 2, and they got going a lot faster. You know, somebody else who had a lot to do with that was Ian Murray, who was part of the Advance Australia Challenge, those three teams that were there in Newport in '83. Ian took over after sailing Advance, which was a dog. He took over Challenge 12 and was their trial horse, and I think also helped speed them up a lot. But I'm thinking about give me a comment or let me know offline if you think having a Zoom call and a little commemoration, a tribute to the late, great Peter DeSavre, PDS, who I knew well, and I'm going to, in one person in particular, I'm going to try to get on, and if I can, I'll for sure do that. We'll just have a Zoom call. You all can come on and give us your memories as a bit of a tribute to Peter DeSavre. This day in history, speaking of Brits, again, we're sticking to the 5th of November because it was more interesting than the 4th. Couldn't find anything too interesting here. But all of you Brits would know what happened in 1605 on the 5th of November. Those of you who are not Brits or part of the Commonwealth, here's your first clue. This is a painting called Festivities in Windsor Castle by a guy, Paul Sandby, circa 1776, having nothing to do with our revolution, but having to do with the bonfires which had been being lit in the UK since 1605. Gordon Smith, of course, has got it. Guy Fawkes' attempt to blow up Parliament. Ted Ryman's got it. Guy Fawkes. Angus Melrose. Where'd that come from, Steve Gruber? Guy Fawkes Day. Yep. That's what we're talking about today. And there is the gentleman on the far right, this painting called Guy Fawkes by Charles Gauguin, I guess is his name. Gauguin, not the Gauguin, I don't think, but a British painter, circa 1870, of Guy Fawkes being caught. There was a letter from somebody who was a spy into that group and told them what they were going to do. And Fawkes wasn't the leader of the gang, but he was caught in the basement of Parliament with, I don't know how many barrels of gunpowder, ready to blow the place up and kill the king as well. And here's a little video about it at Guy Fawkes Day.
This is the burning of Guy Fawkes Day.
Well, whether it was a religious coup or whether it was, some people, depending upon, I guess, where you are on the political or religious spectrum, some people who were Catholics saying that the Catholics were so badly treated, this was in reaction to that. Others saying, no, they were trying, obviously, you don't want to, you don't want to burn down Parliament because you're upset about something, I suppose. Try to sort it out peacefully. But I did not know that Guy Fawkes mask, I mean, it looks like him according to the paintings. And I've got well, it's not exactly a painting, but a pictorial representation. I'll put it up there now of that group. And you can see Fawkes there, third from the right. And that mask, which has become popular in the UK and now beyond, and worn by people who are anti-government wherever and whenever, there's the group. And that guy was Spanish. Apparently he was Guido Fawkes, there, third from the right. And he's the one who got caught and tortured and hung and then drawn and quartered after being in London Tower, I guess in January. So this was from November to January. Probably was not a very pleasant couple of months for him. But he confessed, and a lot of others did too. They rounded up the rest of this gang and I guess executed all of them. But the guy second from the right, Robert Catesby, I guess it was Catesby, was apparently the leader of the gang. Guido probably suffered. And he's the one now whose reputation has lasted because of Guy Fawkes Day, which is celebrated on the 5th of November every year, this day in history, with bonfires and lately with magnificent fireworks. And the only reason I knew about this before was because we were always in London the first week of November for the IYRU, the predecessor to World Sailing, International Yacht Racing Union meetings, and the 5th of November fell during that week, and we always had a little bit of a Guy Fawkes celebration along with the rest of our British friends. Yeah, King Tut tomb was discovered. Was it the 4th or the 5th? And I saw that, Fritz, in the history channels. The UK has never had a prime minister who admits to being Catholic. Tony Blair and Boris Johnson being two good examples. Were they Catholic? Of course, JFK, John Kennedy, was the first Catholic president here in the U.S. I don't know if anybody has been since. I was wondering if Angus was the special guest for the PDS memorial. Steve Groover's saying. There was Oath Keepers. Yeah, okay. Somebody thought it was a good idea to have who was that? Yeah, Greg Phillips. He thought it'd be a good idea to have a tribute to PDS on Tuesday. There's one guy in particular I want to get in touch with, and if I can get him on the show, he lives out in Perth, in Fremantle in Perth, and if I can get him on the show, I'll for sure do the PDS, because he and I have a particularly cool recollection. Can't get him on, then maybe we'll do something a little lower key on Tuesday. America's Cup. We got some America's Cup news and videos. The first video, and there's a lot of this stuff a lot of these videos, now they're coming every day, these spy videos, and it's in part because they've just announced it. I'll tell you in a moment about this new documentary series that they've just announced, a la Drive to Survive, I guess, for Formula One, and SailGP is trying to do the same thing. But there's so much of this stuff now, it's turning me off. There's every day they're putting another video out. The videos are okay, but they've got these so-called spy videos that they've got a team of videographers and people interviewing sailors. But it's just a fire hose of information, and I'm going to try to get, at the suggestion of actually Mark Husted, I'm going to try to get Richard Gladwell on here soon to give us an update on where he thinks all these teams stand. But they are all sailing. Some are sailing old AC 75s. Some are sailing new AC 40s, this so-called LQE 12s. We'll get to it in a sec. But here's, we told you about this on Tuesday when the Brits, they had their LEQ, that's it, not LQE. The Brits had launched their bespoke 40-footer, 12-meter boat, can't be longer than 12 meters, 40 feet. Protocol allows teams to have LEQ 12 yachts, which translated means a boat that is less than or equal to 12 meters. While entrants are required to buy the new AC40, the one designed, not bespoke, the one designed AC40s from Team New Zealand, which was created by the New Zealand Defender for testing and training, along with use in the Youth and America's Cup, Youth and Women's America's Cup. Slow down, Tom. Both the Italian and British campaigns have gone a step further by developing their own LEQ-12s. Okay, we told you that on Tuesday. Now, here is a video just released by Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. This is their bespoke.
Col nuovo protocollo praticamente ogni team per poter partecipare alla prossima Coppa America è obbligata al protocollo a comprare la C40, è una barca che è stata progettata e disegnata da Team New Zealand. Questa barca può avere il doppio scopo, quella di partecipare alle regate all'America's Cup World Series, però può essere anche utilizzata volendo come barca sviluppo. Il motivo per cui noi abbiamo scelto di costruire il nostro prototipo è semplicemente e principalmente perché il nostro C40, essendoci iscritti per secondi, diciamo tra gli sfidanti, in realtà terzi perché poi c'è anche Ineos, il nostro C40 arriverà tra aprile e maggio del prossimo anno, quindi non ci avrebbe permesso di navigare per tanti mesi e di fare sviluppo. Quindi abbiamo scelto di costruire il nostro prototipo perché così possiamo fare sviluppo un po' in tutti i dipartimenti, no? Allora, la barca è un prototipo che stiamo costruendo qui a Cagliari, nelle tende della base. La progettazione ovviamente è tutta interna nostra e anche le risorse dei boat builder, quindi dei costruttori, sono ragazzi dello short team. Su questa barca faremo tutto lo sviluppo che poi ci porterà al disegno finale della C75. Questo scafo è stato realizzato e concepito e progettato non solo con l'obiettivo del più performance, ma soprattutto per darci la possibilità di fare lo sviluppo di cui abbiamo bisogno, no? Sia dal punto di vista idrodinamico che aerodinamico che di sistemi. In barca potremo andare in 5, non ci saranno i ciclisti per una questione di spazio, quindi i ciclisti faranno un allenamento e una preparazione a terra. Ovviamente avremo la possibilità di portare a bordo i ciclisti per farli abituare ovviamente alla velocità e alcuni dei sistemi di controllo della barca. Non ci sarà un equipaggio fisso nella fase iniziale perché vogliamo tenere la possibilità di decidere chi sarà l'equipaggio più o meno definitivo per quando varieremo la barca grande, quindi questo anno e mezzo da qui al varo di barca 1, diciamo, ruoteranno tutti, daremo a tutti la possibilità di provare, ma anche perché ci sarà bisogno di tanti velisti, perché comunque i velisti continueranno a fare regate di circuiti esterni perché è fondamentale loro continuino ad allenarsi, ci sono quelli coinvolti nelle campagne olimpiche, quindi avremo bisogno di tante persone da far ruotare per dare continuità all'attività del team.
My good friend Maxi Serena, good guy, longtime friend. We've done a couple cups together. And an interesting, I mean, they said they were not going to get their AC40 because they're built in the order that you challenged in the challenge of record, first one in Ineos. And Max said they weren't going to get their boat till next spring, Northern Hemisphere spring. What did he say? April, May. So to be able to sail before that, they built this bespoke 40-footer, as did Sir Ben, even though they're first in line because they want to be sailing now. And one thing that seems quite clear to me when you see what Alinghi is doing on their 75 in Barcelona, and I suppose T. Hutch and the New York Yacht Club American Magic Gang are doing the same. It seems clear to me, as you looked at the sailing on that AC40 just now of Prada's, they are going to have a skipper on each side of the boat, a helmsman on each side of the boat. No one's going to be switching sides. The mainsail is going to be right down against the deck. And you're going to do what Luna Rossa, Prada, I think all the teams are going to be doing what LRPP did last time with a helm on each side. not running back and forth across the boat. So at least that's what it seems to me. I know talking to Mark Husted earlier this week, or maybe over the last weekend, he thought the same. So there's a whole lot of comments here now. Bill Wingrove saying, let me see how far I should go up here. Stingray saying, yes, a real fire hose of info. It's really good material too. Hats off to the new recon arrangement. Well, we'll see, Stingray. Yeah, all great, but nothing from ETNZ yet that I've seen. Yeah, well, they're campaigning their AC-40 down under. Fritz Mueller, F1 was always a circus and I was glued to it for years. However, AC becoming that too, it seems. Okay, there is a fun argument going on about whether to nickname this Ineos LEQ-12 either the Tesla Cybertruck or the barge. I actually think Sir Ben's boat looks more like a Cybertruck, a Tesla Cybertruck. That thing is really slab-sided and not the most attractive looking boat, but let's see if it's fast. Bill Wingrove saying you can tell already they're heading to one corner of the design spectrum. LR and Ineos look very similar. Yes, I think that's fair. Particle board in the build. I don't know, Fritz. Yeah, I was going to mention that too, Stinger. The drone fly-through is amazingly well done through the Luna Rossa base. Yeah, that was, at first I thought it was somebody with a stabilized camera walking through, and they were speeding it up. But then when you saw them fly out the door and do the loop-de-doop, that was pretty cool. Drone flying by somebody in that LRPP video. It was a nice video, wasn't it? If you look at camouflage on Luna, Mark Husted says it's to hide the sensors and cameras that they have put on the hull. Gordon Smith agreeing the drone filming is excellent. You can only build one full-size boat. Yes, John Emmett, so you better get it correct the first time. That's what Sir Ben Ainsley said. Sounds like the soundtrack from Godfather. American Magic launched their full-scale Patriot AC-75 after a week in the shed. She is now boomless and has pedals. Stingray is reminding us, yes, indeed. And Alinghi have redone that boat, the B1 that they bought from ETNZ, and they now have a boomless arrangement as well. Mainsail flush down to the deck. Do they build hulls that can stay in ground effect or can punch through child? That's going to be the big question, Jonathan Frank, because it's bouncy, it's bumpy in Barcelona, as we keep saying. What else here? Tom isn't saying? Yeah, Tom Slingsby is now down in Pensacola, sailing for the first time with American Magic. Ed Worley, going really fast on edge of crashing is not interesting. No crew work, no sail changes, no jibing duels. Ed Worley, who's a traditionalist, was with the 12-meter team Eagle. Newport Harbor Yacht Club's 87 challenge and does our America's Cup Trivia challenge now. Yeah, John Emmett saying you don't tend to get hard corners in native fish and birds, but we shall see. Clark Chapin, who's an engineer, automotive engineer, beauty is only skin deep, but ugly goes clear to the keel. Mark Husted, Ben's boat is just for data. He did say that. Yes, he did. Fast is beautiful. We shall see. Okay, we have another video. Thanks for that LRPP video. This is American Magic's The Spy video that came out of Recon that is on, these are all on the americascup.com YouTube channel. You can find them there, and there's a lot of video there. As I said, this is the latest from New York's American Magic. In Pensacola.
Hi, I'm Cooper Dressler, and I'm an athlete with American Magic.
You guys covered the most distance in the shortest amount of sailing time today. What was the focus, and can you kind of walk us through the day?
Yeah, first and foremost, our focus was making the most out of the wind conditions. We had an early breeze that was dying, and so we started really early to take advantage of that. Also, we had a big focus today on the power system on board. So we are using manual power, so human-produced force input devices, and it's a little bit different than the last time. So we were focused heavily on that today.
Great. Were the cyclists able to meet the power requirements today?
Yes. So today was a big win. in the power scheme of things, because all of our gear survived. You know, the mechanical systems are working well, and yeah, once we had all 4 positions with cyclists on board, the power demands of the boat, we were able to meet those.
Okay. Does the boat steer or trim differently with cyclist power versus battery power? In other words, are they limited in their maneuvers?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. You know, one of our guys on the team said it perfectly today. The more oil you produce, the more the boat will take. So you're always going to be somewhat compromised when you're producing oil in this fashion by human power. So that's going to be, you know, it's a big factor in how you design the boat and how you optimize all of your sail controls going forward.
What would you say are the team's biggest areas of opportunity right now?
Right now, the biggest areas of opportunity are definitely training up some of the newer sailors who weren't part of the last campaign, and this class of boat is brand new to them. It's certainly, that's a big focus right now. And then beyond that, since we're sailing Patriot, we need to focus on what the next, you know, what are the next gains we will make with the next boat that we have to build for Barcelona.
Okay. Why was the decision made to cancel sailing yesterday?
Yeah, we didn't cancel. I actually don't know. Do you know? I'm just gonna make something up. Yeah, yesterday's sailing was canceled due to we wanted to take some time to focus on the foil finish, the finish on the foils. So the guys spent some time respraying and tickling up both of our main foils, as well as sort of regrouping. What you find is at times, if you sail too many days in a row, you don't really have time to catch up with all the changes and all the things that you're learning.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Thank you, Cooper.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Well, there's the sponsor board. Oh, it went to black in a hurry. I normally cut the black off at the end of those videos, so we don't have that. Cancel sailing to watch the World Series. I doubt it. You know, it's interesting because they're asking questions of these guys, and so it'll be interesting if some of them spill a bean sometime and get admonished by T. Hutch, by the leadership, for saying something they're not supposed to say. Cooper Dress was a very smart boy. Athlete, yeah, there was a clever comment from somebody. Was it Gruber? Yeah, likely that an athlete gets paid more than a sailor used to. I wish there were sailors. Of course, they're athletes too. But they're sailors, for God's sake. Okay, we got another video here. This one is the video. I can put that. See that black square? We don't need that. This is after a day, actually after a week of pretty slow stuff going on in the Med, light air in Barcelona. They finally got some breeze here in the last couple days. And actually some pretty strong breeze for a lingy. Yeah, Jonathan Frank, sophomoric ain't the word. I agree. Spy videos.
So my name is Nels Teuning and I'm part of the power group.
So good afternoon, it's raining now, but not a bad day on the water. We started with very light winds, about 3-5 knots, then increased to 16 plus. Can you tell us what was happening today and what your objectives were?
Yeah, so going out on the water, we knew the forecast was going to be quite windy, so we were prepared for the wind to arrive. We went through some more testing on the new setups we changed last week. Everything went well and we managed to sail, do a couple of fairways, a couple foiling maneuvers and hit some good speeds. Overall we're really happy. And yeah, then we had to stop because the wind increased too much.
Yeah, so what was the top speed you hit today?
We are really fast, I'm not sure, but for sure above 40 knots.
And was that upwind, downwind, reach?
Probably steady on the downwinds and on the fairways were the top speeds for sure.
And you were on the main today? Or
I was on the port jib trim.
Port jib trim. So did you have a good feeling for it? Or, I mean, you went through 4 different sails, so what was the difference going through all the different sails?
Yeah, so the breeze increased gradually, so every time the wind increased, we had to change the jib, and then every time we change the jib, it changed a bit the power of the boat, but more or less it's similar.
And was it a big difference as the wind was increasing and you have, you know, the M2, so you started on the M2 with very light wind and then, you know, it started to come up very strong. You know, how does that impact? How does it impact the performance of the boat?
I think generally the boat feels a bit more light. Like if we're overpowered, everything feels heavier for sure on the helm. It's a big difference. So yeah, it's just to make the boat more controllable. Reducing the sail area makes the boat faster and also more controllable.
So you had a pretty big touchdown at the end. Was this the end of the session or any damage from that?
Yeah, so like I said, the winch climbed quite a bit, so we were hitting the upper range there. And yeah, the boat was not reacting the way we wanted, so we just took it safe and decided to call it a day.
And you have big wind tomorrow. Are you going to be sailing tomorrow?
We still have to look into the forecast for tomorrow, so hopefully we can sail. We try to get as many hours as possible on the boat, so if the forecast is nice, for sure we'll try and give it a go.
So you have the new main sheet system. Now you're going to start putting some miles on it, getting some data. Do you feel any difference with the new main sheet system?
For sure, I'm not directly trimming the mainsail, but for sure the sail looks much better with the new system, so hopefully we can get some more positive data out of that.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Son, there's a lot of, you know, these things are coming out daily. There's a lot of video. So we'll keep finding the most interesting ones and bring them to you. But I think the suggestion by Mark Husted of see if we can get Gladstone's a Sangmaster's restaurant down in Long Beach, a steamed restaurant, soon to be in San Diego as well. We're going to have a Gladstone's in San Diego. But Stingray's saying for those interested in tech, check out, I almost ran a part of his analysis today, Stingray. There's the Mozzie Sales guy on YouTube he did one during the last Cup, some analysis, and he and a couple other guys who are not really Cup guys are keen sailors. Some of their observations are quite good, stunningly good, and some of them are way off base. But there is a thing called Mozzie, M-O-Z-Z-Y Sales YouTube channel. If you're interested in even more of this stuff, go have a look. But yeah, booms are so old school, John Emmett is saying. It's not your father's, it's not my America's Cup. It's not your grandfather's America's Cup. It's going to be a lot of straight line speed racing and not much of the maneuvering that we all came to love and enjoy in the 12-meter and the IACC era. We shall see. Find a Stingray, smart guys. Tom is on it. Yeah, on the inside. Tom, what's his name? The Mozzie Sales guy, whose name is also Tom. Okay, one more bit of news from the America's Cup, and they announced today, in fact, that America's Cup and Skydance Sports have partnered to create an all-access documentary series on the iconic sailing competition. This was for kind of a general uptake press announcement. For the first time ever, all the teams competing in the iconic sailing event meaning the America's Cup, will allow never before seen access into their preparations and execution of the race. And the documentary series will showcase the people and the drama on and off the water throughout the competition. As I said, this is Drive to Survive. This is the basis, and that's why they've got all this spy stuff going on, too. They'll be using that footage as well. The 37th America's Cup will take place in September and October of 2024, as you all know, in Barcelona, where the event's defending champions, ETNZ, not the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, but ETNZ, which has won 4 cups since 1995, not Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, which, of course, is the one who's won it, will be challenged by teams including the United States, American Magic, Great Britain, Ineos Britannia, Italy, Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, and Switzerland's Alinghi Red Bull Racing. No, Jonathan Frank, Skydance Sports is not a Hungarian TV production company. Skydance Sports, if any of you watched the latest Tom Cruise movie, Maverick. What was it? It was Top Gun: Maverick. It was produced by Skydance Sports, and the owner of this company is none other than David Ellison. David on the right with his more famous father, Larry. I don't know David well. I know him, I've met him any number of times and had lunch once or twice. And he's a very bright guy and quite a successful Hollywood producer. They're in Santa Monica. And they have done the deal to produce this documentary. And he's got some really cool, famously good documentarists, is that a word? With him in this endeavor. And they have partnered up now with America's Cup, ACE, America's Cup Events, AC 37, not Larry. Larry's not involved that I know of, although I'm sure Larry's money is what put David in the business to begin with. David's done quite well, including, as I said, Top Gun Maverick. He produced that film. Okay, so that's who Skydance Sports is. It's a fairly new company, Skydance Sports. The Skydance Productions, whatever his movie company, has been around since a long time, at least 2010, and Skydance Sports is fairly recent. Documentarians, is that the right word, Steve Gruber? Skydance soon to have a reality TV show, broad rights. Let's see the drama. Yeah, Skydance, aren't they? It was started and it is owned by, Stingray knew it was David Ellison. Ta-da, let's make some funds. Well, we'll see. Okay, back to an event that's a little more near and dear to my heart and probably a lot of yours. There is an event underway now in Auckland at the RNZ, Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. Match racing, the Auckland is hosting the New Zealand Women's Match Racing Championship, followed next week by the World Championship. The Waitemata Harbor is the stage for 2 weeks of world-class women's sailing this November, with the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron hosting the New Zealand Women's Match Race Championship from the 3rd, started yesterday, 3rd to the 6th of November, leading into the Barfoot and Thompson Women's Match Racing World Championships from the 9th to the 13th. Another shot, this is from last year's New Zealand Women's Match Racing Championship. But the NZWMRC winner will be awarded the coveted Leith Mossman Memorial Trophy, and the top-seeded unqualified team will be invited to join the WMRWC, the World Championship fleet, a week later, alongside 14 of the best in women's sailing. And it's a great field. It is indeed. And the field includes many of the favorites for the World Championship who are sailing in the New Zealand Championship to get some time in the boats, alongside the 5 teams who are after that coveted final World Championship entry. Yes, they are, Chris Exley, in the Elliott Sixes. World Sailing Women's number 1, ranked number 1, Pauline Courtois from her Match in Pink by Normandy. Match in Pink by Normandy elite team from France. And number 2, Anna Ostling. We know both of these ladies well and their teams, having seen them at various events in the last 4 or 5 years. That's a Swedish team, Anna Ostling's team is. They headline this year's MRC field and will be a very tough test to match up against after collectively dominating the last few years of women's, sailing, but match racing in particular. Both teams are using the New Zealand Championship to get a feel for the Elliott Sevens, Chris Exley, that both regattas will be raced with and are expected to have some fantastic duels throughout the 2 weeks. So that event those 2 events are running the 3rd, yesterday, through the 13th of November. And there are teams from, other top teams from around the world, including a team here, Nicole Briot from St. Francis Yacht Club, and various others from around the world are participating. And I know our good friend and Fozy, James Pleasance, is en route there from the UK. He'll be down for that championship. Maybe we can get him to chime in as well. And I know he's passing through Sydney, and he's going to see some other Fozies, checking in with the, I'm not going to say, because I've been told that it's the information I have is with Harry and Olivia and their parents is not, what's the word I want? It's to be kept under wraps until next Tuesday. So that's going on in Auckland. Did they get longer? I was sure they were Elliott 6s. I thought so too, Steve. The press release says Elliott 7s. Maybe it was a typo in the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron's press release. Okay, that gets us to the D block. Pending any other comments, having competition in keelboats is fine. Why not match race in dinghies or even single-handed dinghies? I think big, heavy, slow boats, keelboats are better. Facebook user. Who is Facebook user? Is that J. Frederick Bland? Who is that? Nicole Brio. Yeah, Peter Taylor. Thank you. I mentioned her, I think, didn't I, that she was going to be there. And the sail logo has a 7 on it. Does it? So maybe there's an Elliott 6 and an Elliott 7. JFB sends. Yeah, okay. And excuse me, I'll turn. Still have a little bit of post-COVID cough. Turn my cough switch. Julia's got one. I always admonish her. Julia, use your cough switch there over there on your desk when she's coughing. And it's hard to forget you've got such a switch. That gets us to the D block regardless. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. And we're an hour and a half in. I think I'll just run one. And this was making fun of me. This is a Fosey who sent this cartoon in saying, guy in the tent is saying, what? What the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot? My banjo is broken beyond repair. And the guy's out on the on the log in front of the fire giving each other high fives. But the guy has an alternative. He's saying, oh, well, I guess I'll just have to unpack my accordion. I like the banjo. I'm not wild about the accordion. I don't know how to, I mean, I used to have an accordion. I never knew how to play it very well. But I like the banjo. Sorry. But, you know, the definition of a gentleman is somebody who knows how to play the banjo, but does not, at least not in polite company. So that's our only cartoon. Thanks to Fosey Dave Robinson, former GM at Balboa Yacht Club and out at the Outrigger Canoe Club, and also up at San Francisco Yacht Club. And now is a headhunter for club managers. The guy knows what he's doing. So just no bagpipes, Steve Gruber is saying. Yeah, that's probably a good point. Ed Worley's asking, how can you tell if the banjo is broken? What's the punchline? What's the punchline to that, Ed Worley? It's the cough that carries you off, not the coffin they carry you off in. Yeah, true. Well, that's why you have a cough switch. What's the punchline? How can you tell if a banjo is broken? Ed Worley. He's typing. I can hear him clicking away down in SoCal on his computer. Well, we'll get back to that comment in a moment. Maybe he's looking for the punchline. We're at the finish line. And again, we will, next Tuesday, after we go off daylight time, typing. Yes, Chris Bretschker. I hope he's not typing in the kind of typing you're talking about. We will go live for the next 4 months, not at 1 p.m. Pacific time, but at noon Pacific, because we are going to stick to, as promised, 2000 UTC. So you can figure out your local, in your local time zones, wherever in the world you are. We will go live for the next 4 months until we go back on daylight time. It's tough, as I said, for me, because it means going live at noon here. I lose an hour of prep time in the morning, but I just have to be self-disciplined enough to do the prep the day before, which is harder. Did we ever get that punchline? Maybe the punchline is that you can't tell. Okay. Blake Middleton, hugs to Julia, who I'm still planning, and she's going to break her out of the convalescence home where she is. Okay, the comments are still rolling in here, but I just wrap this up. Thursday, we will stick, or sorry, Tuesday, next Tuesday, we'll stick to our normal 2000 UTC. You can figure it out in your local time zones, but that does mean means noon here on Pacific and 3 o'clock on the East Coast here in the U.S. Comments are welcome too, even in replay. Thank you, Ted Ryman, saying it was another cool show. Fritz Mueller replying to Facebook user, happens in high school and college all the time, but I think a club level one would be cool in dinghies. Well, you can match race in dinghies. We used to match race in dinghies. Okay, there's jokes going on. We'll look at those jokes and maybe run a few of them on Tuesday. Comments are, as I said, welcome to and replays. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Give us $1 or $2 or more a month. Send us a cup of coffee. And as Rich Fishbeck does, every now and then he sends us a bottle of tequila or something. That's much appreciated. Thank you, John Emmett. Best wishes to Julia. Yeah, we really wish her a speedy recovery and get her back here. I need her help. Good for me. Husted likes it. It's an hour earlier, 2100. Hope Julia gets well. Okay, they're still telling jokes. And that's it. I do sorely miss Julia. It's nice to have her here, her erudition, have her as a foil. Correct my croutonicism when I misspeak, but we got all of you. Jonathan Frank, thank you. And 1500 EST, Steve Gruber. Fortunately, I'm still at work. Well, you can watch a replay. Okay, everybody, thank you. Thanks for all the hearts and the thumbs up and everything down there in the comments. We appreciate that very much. We hope you have a wonderful weekend wherever in the world you are, and the rest of your weekend down under. See you on Tuesday. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.